Hey guys, it's Brandon Burton, and I wanted to give you guys a inside scoop on my spiritual awakening class that I put together. I decided to put together a 6-video series on spiritual awakening because it requires so much time to process, and it requires a lot of stretching of the information because of the intensity of the material, right? And so I wanted to share with you the first 40 minutes of class 1, which is 2 hours long. And then I think class 2 is like 90 minutes. Class 3 is about a couple hours. Anyway, they're a couple hour long videos, and there's 6 video trainings of a pre-recorded class that I've had. And it really just goes over a new way of living. Like, it's not a religion. It's just literally a journey of the soul. Like, I believe this is a class that could be really beneficial for anyone that's trying to understand more in depth about the journey of a soul, and then understand how they can be connected more in depth, but also how they can utilize their intuition now. So a lot of you that are listening, you have intuition. You know that this is real, or you know that this is all happening on a divine intervention level. And if you could tap into it, or if you can understand your own experiences, what better way to live life? So that's what this class does. And so it just goes over the awakening experience, but more importantly, it goes over how you can utilize spirit to your advantage with movement in your life, how to trust your gut, right? How to know, what your intuition is telling you, how to understand it. And then you could even get to a place of learning how to become a medium from those components. But that's not what this class is. I'm not trying to teach you how to become a medium. I am going to be talking to those that are trying to be a medium, and then also those that are just trying to be tapped in on their own, just for their own benefit. So it's a great class that goes over a lot of content and information about just living and why things have to happen sometimes in the way that they do, so we can just better understand. Some of you guys, if you understand why, you can take the action necessary in whatever that may be, right? And that's like your kids too. Like, you're finding yourself having to tell them legitimately why, so they can actually execute what you want them to do. Well, that's what this is all about, is trying to understand why you have been placed in parts of your life, and why you had to make movements in your life, and why you shouldn't be so angry with God. This class will be so beneficial if you're just confused, or if you're like, I know there's more out there and I just can't seem to wrap my mind around all of the things that I've experienced. So this spiritual awakening class, though, is really going to enlighten you and open your eyes to a lot of realizations. And if anything else, it will change your perspective on life. So I hope that you enjoy the 40 minutes that I'm giving you with episode 1 or class 1. It's just, there's so much information and I can talk about it for days. So instead, I just put it in a 6-video series. So I hope you relax and enjoy this. And if you're interested, this class is available to enroll. You can go to readingswithbrandon.com and then use the spiritual awakening tab, and then just follow the next steps, and you can enroll and start right away. So it's very exciting. And then the way it works is you work at your own pace. First 2 classes are available immediately, and then the next classes get dropped in your email after a certain amount of days. So it gives you plenty of time to watch, but more importantly, it gives you plenty of time to maybe journal or meditate or exercise some of the symbols and signs that I teach. And so there's just a lot of progress that could be had in this experience. So anyway, if you're feeling pulled to it, like I said, you can check it out at readingswithbrandon.com. But without further ado, let's check it out. It's so passive and casual here. I just want to welcome everyone and just thank you so much for sharing your evening. I'm just so excited. And I'm going to tell you why I'm so excited.
beginning of last year that I went through my spiritual awakening. Gosh, I knew that would be a problem. Okay. Okay, sorry. So what you don't know that's happening, obviously some of you guys are knowing that I have all of you in front of me right now, and so much is happening on the other side. So we're just gonna chillax for a second. They're gonna have to wait because that's not why we're here. Welcome to class. I'm crazy and I'm an idiot, so this is gonna go great. So here's the deal. So I started my spiritual journey the beginning of last year. And for those that don't know, I tell people that I'm a recovering Baptist, and it's not because I'm against religion. I am just simply untethered from the business of religion. And that has allowed me to be connected in a way that has been incredible. But I just went down the wrong road with religion, and I was really like belted in with a lot of conviction and a lot of things that were holding me back. And so if you're kind of in that same situation as far as religion, I can totally relate. And here in a moment, I'm going to kind of address that just to kind of clear the air. I remember this journey for me being very isolating and very lonely. And I remember nights after nights after nights, I would actually, like, I would be angry and I would be emotional. Like I would be crying and angry all at the same time. Has anyone experienced that? Like, have you been so angry that you're crying all at the same time? Like, you don't even know what you feel. You just feel a crap ton of emotions. And I remember going through this process and feeling so alone. And like, no one will understand, because if I'm like explaining this to somebody, they're going to just think I'm crazy. That's why I didn't feel understood or heard or validated. I was releasing shit on my own that had everything to do with stuff I hadn't done yet. And so then I realized that with spiritual awakening comes trauma release. At the same time, I was realizing and learning that I'm a medium. So I had been going through a lot. Like I was like so caught up in trauma release, becoming spiritually in tune, and then connecting and understanding the communication. And it was a lot. And this is probably why I was so emotional. You know, this is probably why I'm so passionate about this class, because some of you guys are gifted. Some of you guys are intuitive, and some of you guys are empathic, and you just know stuff. And you have this intuition that you want to learn, and you feel crazy, and no one in your family can relate. But you probably have like a best friend or a close friend that you can talk to about it, someone that's not in your orbit, a family. And that's because every family will usually have one or two super intuitive people. I realized that I received my intuition from my grandma Barbara. So my grandma Barbara has passed, and she was a huge staple of my life. She was my mom's mom. I lived with her. She helped raise me. And it wasn't until she died and I taught a seminar several years ago in photography that I realized my grandmother's purpose was to help take care of my mom's kids, us. And it wasn't until my youngest brother was 18, 19 he lived on his own, and she died. And it was like, whoa, like it blew my mind when I had this realization of like, she lived this crappy life, this shitty, poor life, but she stayed so strong to maintain our foundation and our growth and our strength for us to be able to live a life to the best and to the fullest possible. My dad had left when I was 9 years old, landing himself in prison, and my mom is a single parent in California. And so my grandmother stepped up and took care of us. Well, anyway, when she died, things started to happen. Like I started to pick up on more things, and my intuition really started to change. So if you have had this gift or this talent or this ability of intuitiveness that has had an influx from someone that's passed, I can relate to you, because this has happened. And then she became my gatekeeper. When I realized that I could do what I could do, I saw my grandmother as my gatekeeper, keeping in and out good and bad energy. It was just like amazing. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So anyway, which that's like another day. But so my story goes back to understanding where I received my connection. My grandmother was intuitive. When she was Earthside, she would tell people things that would happen to them before they would happen to them. And she became someone that people were like, don't talk to Barbara. You never know what she's gonna say. You know, it became like a joke. And so I say all this to say I did not know this about my grandmother until last year. She died 8 years ago. So here I am feeling alone, feeling totally isolated, like I'm a creature of craziness, right? And then my mother and my brother, you know, my brother's a pastor, you know, I was in mission trips and I did all the religion thing. And so I literally was so caught up in conviction. So what I'm trying to do for you is I'm trying to relate to you on a level where you don't need somebody's validation. You don't need to get people to understand you, because it won't happen. And it doesn't need to happen. What needs to happen is that you need to understand yourself, that you're not going crazy, and that you are valid enough to experience these phenomenons, which are amazing. Because you know what you crave is peace. And you know what this can give you? Peace. So why don't you go ahead and receive it in the way that it's intended? Why don't you go ahead and embrace your intuition? Why don't you go ahead and give yourself permission to find peace? Because I'm going to tell you, I have 4 children. There is nothing worse than the fear of your child dying, except for when your child passing. And some of you, your child has passed. And that brings me to my side note. I will be very sensitive and I will do my darnest to not offend anybody, because the thing is, I'm speaking from as if I'm there, okay? Because that is where every day I'm in soul land. And so it may come across that I'm insensitive, and I'm not though, because this is their tone. You have to understand that if they were to speak like physically here as a soul, they would have this like momentum behind, we're fine. Stop worrying about us, because we are over here so caught up into anxiety and fear and depression that we can't even think to move forward. And I'm not even talking about grieving. I'm talking about fears about like children dying, right? So what I'm saying is, as I'm connected and I'm speaking on their behalf, I'm speaking on their behalf. So if I sound insensitive, I'm not. I just had to like clarify that, because I just don't want to offend anybody. I know myself enough to know that like I personally am not making shit up, nor am I bullshitting anybody. And my intention behind anything that I do, whether it's a reading or a class, is to not bullshit anything. And so if you've done a reading with me, which like I think more than half of you have, you know that if like a soul came through to apologize, I'm not just saying sorry on their behalf. They're gonna have to give me 7 things that they did or saw or gave you for me to say I'm sorry. And I say that because I am someone who has been through a lot of bullshit too. I have had people in my life who have really done a lot of damage. I've gone through trauma. I've gone through sexual abuse. I've gone through physical abuse, mental abuse. Moved to Oklahoma from California when I was 15, and then again moved schools every year. So what I'm saying is like there was never like a group of friends that I had. I got bullied. I was always bigger. I was always fatter. I had pimples. I was ugly, and so I got made fun of all the time. I got kicked. I got assigned the front row of the bus because of how many kids bullied me. I couldn't communicate. I legitimately couldn't speak because I was so like beaten down like my whole life. Nobody asked me how I was. Nobody cared to like help me. No one saw any of it. I was sexually abused from the age of like 7 to like 15, several years. And I say all that to say, I have gone through what this class is going to help you go through, if you allow it. Because I've walked this journey on my own, and with the spiritual awakening came the release of all of the anger and the resentment that I had towards my trauma. Within my awakening, I understood the reality of what I went through and why I had to go through that. And then I understood, like, so much more came from it than the I wish I had. I wish I had a dad who wasn't in prison. I wish I had a mom who did this. I wish I had a grandmother who did that. I wish I had a brother who did this. Ring a bell? Does that sound familiar? Wishing back on your childhood, wishing that your mom was away, or your dad was a certain way, or your brother or sibling was a certain way, and really feeling like we were robbed from an experience. Does that sound familiar? Anyone can relate? Absolutely. Because that's how I walked, right? That's how I walked my life, thinking that I missed out and that I am someone who didn't get to experience what I thought my childhood should have been. And then I victimized myself. And then I meddled in my own stuff. And then it became an issue because then I blamed everybody. I distanced myself from everybody. I literally chose the wrong path, in my opinion. And I didn't like resort to drugs or drinking, but what I refused to do was understand it. I refused to understand it because it felt great to feel like I am who I am because of what happened, right? Made me feel a lot different. Whenever I went through the spiritual awakening, I was able to release tetherments that were controlling and dictating my happiness and joy. And with the spiritual awakening, you can experience the same thing. And you may already be on the spiritual awakening. You may be at a plateau, or you may be pulled to take this class because spiritual awakening has just caught your interest. You may also be like seeing a bunch of TikToks or spiritual videos, reels, and Facebook and social media. Anybody? Spiritual TikTok? Yeah. You out there? Cool. I'm convinced the algorithm is spirit, but that's a different class. So think about it. Everything leads us to what we're doing. Using our technology and
I
really...
found you on TikTok.
Oh, see? Look at that. God, I look so tired. So I've had 6 readings today. Like, that's 6 hours of just talking and channeling. How many souls were that? It was like 30 souls today. Like, can you imagine just like talking to 30 dead people? Like, just any other day. It's funny to me because they hate it when I say the word dead because they're very much alive, because like they feel more alive to me than you guys will ever feel to me. And so they're just like, hi. Anyway, you kind of get the idea here about the trauma release connected to the spiritual awakening. And if you're connected in a way where you have intuition and you have abilities, that will parallel. And the closer you, like the more trauma release and the more you work at yourself, the more connected you get and the more you increase your vibrations of understanding, and everything just falls into place. So this class will be a combination of trauma release, spiritually awakening, and intuitive connection, and how to understand that. Because all 3 of them, because you cannot be boggled down with trauma and then know how to understand your intuition and your connection. Okay, so it all is so, and you can't cherry pick. Like, you can't be like, I think I'm a medium, and then be like, but I don't want to take care of my shit. Can I just talk to the dead? No, you just can't do that. Because it's called protection. I'm gonna tell you, I experienced it. I wish somebody went to me whenever I just started doing readings at the same time as I was trauma releasing. You know what I would do at every reading? I would bawl my eyes out because I was too connected to human emotions. I was too tethered to human explanations. Like, I hadn't crossed the spiritual awakening bridge yet to be like, oh, well, this is why it happened. You know, it's like, I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I couldn't handle it. It was bad. It was so bad. I almost stopped because I just couldn't handle. But now I am just so like, gosh, I love channeling the souls over here, especially if they're like children or if best friends or the biggest support, you know, because like I used to cry, but now I'm just like, no, this is what it's about, is like reminding people that this is life. Like where they are is life. Like what we're doing right now is nothing compared. And I want you to know that from the beginning. Okay, I want you to just get that through your mind, because we're going to talk about what are souls, where do they go when they pass, where are we before, what else are we talking about? Yeah, basically the soul contract and all the things that come along with that. So we're going to talk about that today. So we're going to dive in. I'm just going to go back to my little outline. There's something else though that I forgot about. So you are in a safe space. I meant to mention this. You're in a safe space, okay? You are not crazy. Like, I say the word crazy in my world because I just think crazy is like amazing, wow, crazy. But crazy as in like you're going insane, never here, okay? You're in a safe space. You can talk about anything you feel comfortable talking about. There will be moments throughout this course that I'll, ask if anyone want to share, and or if you feel compelled to share, please trust that intuition and share, please, because there's several of you guys and it may be something someone might need to hear. But I don't know. I'm opening the floor. I'm making sure you feel invited and welcomed to share, even if you feel like it's something that is a negative connotation, because in spirit world, there's nothing that's negative or positive. It's just what it has to be, okay, and what it needs to be. And so I'm bringing this up because I just don't want you to talk about things and feel like you may get judged or shamed, no matter what, especially an experience. Like if you had if you had an experience that was a soul and you said this to your family and then like they've shamed you to think something, or they've embarrassed you, or they've made you feel crazy, like I want to hear the story because I think it's cool. So you're in that place, okay? Because I was that way. No one would listen to me. So they all thought I was crazy. But I am crazy. Okay. So what is a spiritual awakening? Okay, what is it? So a spiritual awakening is when you realize, it's when you transition into the last half of your life where choices and decisions from others no longer control you, where you release and surrender control, allowing your path to be what it is, understanding you chose the journey in which creates the lessons that you need to be taught. With that realization of what a spiritual awakening is, we understand the importance of the journey of finding gratitude towards that specific part of your journey. By finding clarity through understanding why you had to go through what you went through, allows you the opportunity to be grateful for it. So it's one of those situations where it's a circle. Follow me. You went through all the bullshit, all the crazy stuff happened, everything crazy happened, right? And then all of a sudden you're in a portion of your life and you met your lover, your companion, you're with the best individual. You're still blocked and you still have trust issues. You still have whatever's going on, or you found peace with knowing that that's not the person for you, or someone in your life has passed and then you're trying to awaken to the fact that there's more to life than this. You start to then look back on whatever trauma you've gone through, and grieving is a result of trauma. Someone passing is trauma. So you have to remember that you are looking back on your journey, and then you're understanding that, wait, as a soul, I chose this journey. So that's the first lesson you have to understand. With a soul, every soul chooses the journey. So you chose the journey, okay? But we're going to talk about this more in specific detail. As the soul, you choose the gender, you choose the race, you choose the location, you choose the type of vessel, whether it's human, dog, fish, whale, mountain, or a tree. You choose the vessel. The vessel is determined based off of the list of lessons that your soul has signed up to learn. A white male can learn only white male lessons. Does that make sense? A fish can only learn, there's only some lessons that fish can only learn, okay? You will cycle through, once you start the journey on planet Earth, you cycle all the way through. You are every race, every location, you are every religion, you are every creature, you reincarnate. There is a line for planet Earth. There's a line to be on this planet. And that is because the speed and the frequency of which you learn these lessons is quicker on planet Earth. And that's because planet Earth is one of the only ones to have soul amnesia. Soul amnesia is what happens at birth. You forget your past lives. You forget the things that have shaped you in other lives and molded you in other lives. It's for protection. If you remembered your other children, you loved them in another life, you would want them in this life. You would not want new ones, nor would you have the love for the children you have in your life, or vice versa. What if you don't have children? What if you couldn't have children? And in a past life, you had a lot of children. And they will say that they passed young, right? And then in this life, you can't have children, and it hurts you even more. This need, this desire, and there's only a lesson in that only that individual with that experience can learn. I can't learn that lesson as a white male. What I'm trying to get at is the race, the location, the age, and the gender, and everything else that what makes you who you are aligns with the list of lessons that your soul came here to learn, which is why they say you can handle anything that comes your way, because you were designed to handle whatever comes your way. This is on a spiritual level. What that exact thing means is that. So when you choose a life, you are assigned a spirit guide. A spirit guide is a guide to tell you or to show you or to guide you in achieving those lessons, doing certain checkpoints. I call these checkpoints. You often would call them milestones. Checkpoints are whenever things change. Like checkpoint, like, ha! Who are you? Where are you going? Things are changing. Lessons are being had. Hiya, hiya! Like having children, marriage, starting high school, learning to walk, learning to eat, literally anything. Because as a soul, having a human experience, these checkpoints are pivotal and are great catalysts to achieving the lessons you're learning. So you have to have a guide coaching you through these things. It's literally crazy. Did you teach your children how to walk? Did you teach your children how to do half the shit they know how to do? No. So what I'm saying is, like, we are picking up on this on our own because we're being guided from a spiritual level, but we are using our sources, like our tools, our eyes, our ears, and everything else to help our soul drive the boat. Okay. But we have to be a newborn. We have to be a baby. We have to be a child to become the adult in this planet, to do what we can do. Because to be honest, a lot of your kids could probably be like, if they had to grow up and become, you know, at 10 years old, like in charge of the house, they could, except the problem is social standards say they can't. And so what I'm saying is, like, a soul that is trying to blend in earth, that's like an older soul. Sometimes older souls have a problem with being children. And so then that's when they become, like, that's how they become older, right? Like you're acting like a mom at 10 years old. It's because they have old habits. So what I'm trying to tell you is reincarnation is real based on the fact that we see it. It's in front of our faces. And I also know reincarnation is real because we say it in our language every day. We'll look at a child and say, you are an old soul. But we never look at someone who's in their 40s or 50s that can't seem to get their life together and pay their bills and do their diligence and say, wow, you must be a young soul. Like, you must be a soul that just can't seem to get their shit together right now. Like consistency, like consistently their whole life, they're just a young soul. Because no matter what responsibilities they had, they were doing it the lowest grade possible. So when you're looking at the ages of souls and the maturity of what they're able to do, you can actually see their maturity of their soul based off of their understanding. Because you carry lessons through your lifetimes. That's why some of you guys go through things that your family members don't have to go through. Or that's why you go through something that you and your friend don't always, you know, like you and your best friend probably go through similar shit because you're soul family, right? So without getting too far ahead of myself, what I'm just trying to talk about is the fact that reincarnation is real and souls come back around and you get to re-meet your soul family. Which is why at certain ages of your life, you're like, I feel like I've known you. And it's because you have. And the souls in our past lives have allowed us to reincarnate bonds and relationships. You just may be a different form. You may be mom, daughter, son, dad, sister. You will alternate different types of roles, but the bonds remain. You may also switch friction things. So like one life, you may be two peas in a pod. The next life, you may be like friction, right? Fighting, okay? With the choosing of your life, your spirit guide guides you through all of this stuff. And before you're birthed, a spirit guide will ask you, do you want this version first? So like life option 1. Do you want to go through a childhood with like all your bullshit you got to get through, like make it all difficult and hard, and then just transition through, and then that way you can live this portion of your life, like your adult version, like in bliss? Option 1. Option 2, it's for those that need to experience a great childhood, right? They have great parents, they may live like, you know, good finances, go to a good school, blah, blah, blah. But then for something happens like after high school or during high school, they start to experience their trauma. Maybe they get, you know, they got pregnant at 14 and they're having to have these difficult journeys, right? Whatever it might be. And then it starts, the hardships start in their adult life. Option 3 would be like this, because souls sometimes change is hard and we need to have a whole lifetime filled with these ups and downs. So that way we have these slow periods, goes down and then gets crazier and then slows down. So you can pick from the beginning. Most of you chose option 1. Most of you had a crazy childhood and then like your adult life bliss, and young adult life could be crazy. But I don't know. You probably know way more about what you chose than I do. But what I'm saying is that's your free will in the beginning. So we have a thing called free will. Every soul has free will. And you can make moves at any given time. So before birth, your first option, one of your first options is, what journey do you want? And then you pick parents that fit that journey. You pick your parents, folks. Here's the deal. I hated my dad. Like, I was like, you son of a, you he's done some really awful stuff. And then I was like, growing up and stuff, like, I don't know how to change oil. I don't know how to change a tire. Like, I'm not into sports, blah, 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 blah. And I just always thought that I had been missed out on an opportunity of a father because of the lack of interests that I've had or whatever. Like, just all this blame and victimizing and, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. Ha! Like, if he was in my life would not be what it is right now. Oh my God, I'm so grateful. Oh my gosh. When you get to that point, nothing can stop you. Like, everything in your life that you like victimize yourself about or say that happened to you, or I wish my dad was this way. And when you get to a point of like, well, shit, if he was that way, or if he wasn't this way, there's no way I would be who I am right now. There's no way I would have the strength. There's no way I would have, my open-mindedness. There's no way that I would be connected. There's no way. So I'm like, well, let go of that shit, because that's controlling me. There's some anger and resentment I don't want. So, hiya, karate chop, right? Cut those ties. And so with that, I'm on my own journey. I don't need a validation from my father. I don't need approval. I don't need proudness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm proud of me. So I'm switching the narrative all alongside letting go of ties and tetherments. And it just changes my story. Like, I'm just so grateful. I'm like oozing gratefulness because I am just so there. Like, I am so grateful for the sexual abuse. I'm so grateful for everything. I'm gonna tell you why I'm grateful for the sexual abuse. After I could clear that out of my system, like trauma release that, I then recognized it as a gift, because I could then be the eyes and the ears for kids or for other people. The only reason why I know the participant in front of me has been sexually abused whenever spirit comes through is because I've gone through it. So what I'm saying is, if I didn't go through that, there's no way I could talk to people. There's no way I could relate. There's no way I could help people heal their own journey. There's no way. And I have boys. I have 4 boys. Like, I'm a boy. I got sexually abused by men. And so what I'm saying is, like, I'm so grateful that now I know what it looks like. I know the red flags. I know what to say. I know what to look for. I know what to say before it becomes the issue. I know how to educate. I know how to inform. So rather than just soaking in my experience and just wishing and hoping and praying that nothing happens to them, I changed the narrative. Oh my God, thank you. I went through that, so they don't have to. Great. Well, if they go through it, it's not because I didn't do my diligence to prevent it, because that's impossible. If they went through it, it's because they had to go through it. I know that I would have done my part, applying my knowledge within my spiritual awakening. That's all I can do as a soul having this experience. And you know what that lets go of? The woulda, coulda, shoulda, haves. Surrendering to the knowing that everyone goes through what they need to go through because A, they signed up for it, but B, they had to in order to achieve whatever lesson that soul came here to learn. And then what I stopped doing, you empaths, listen. So, I'm sassy, right? No, listen. So I stopped going through people's pain and allowing other people's journeys to rob me from mine. When was the last time someone told you that they went through something traumatic and crazy? And did you experience that pain? Did you put yourself through that situation? And did you say, I can't imagine what you went through? Can I get an amen? Right. See, I told you I was in ministry. Okay, so listen. Stop carrying their baggage. You are carrying emotions that don't belong to you because you inevitably opened that dang window and all of that went on you. And then 4 days later, you wake up and you're like, God dang, I still can't imagine going through what they went through. You know what I'm talking about. So here's the deal. When you talk to people and when you surrender to this knowing, you can release the self-pleasing, self-responsibility of taking their pain. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then you just give it back. But you know, some of you are walking down the store or at your job and you got grumpy Nancy next to you typing away in her long fingernails and she's just complaining about her grandson being on drugs. And you're just like, put your headphones in. Oh man, Nancy, I can't imagine. You know? Do that, like put a block, like allow Nancy to express and vent, but don't receive it. And again, just tell her to shut up. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got things to type, Nancy. Can't worry about your drugged out grandson. So what I'm trying to get at is protect your energy. In a way, I'm telling you to protect your energy. But also, it's okay to listen. Like, listening to people is one of the best forms of therapy because we all seek out to be understood. Every single one of you are right here because you're trying to feel understood. Whether you're trying to understand yourself, or you're trying to understand me, or you're trying to understand this to understand you, it all is understanding you or me. And so it's great to be able to listen. And then you can say, do you want me to just listen or do you want advice? If you are an empath that has a mouth, right? So it's like one thing to listen, but it's another to be like, well, let me just give you my whole experience so that way maybe you could reflect my journey, or like, oh, don't do it like this. You know, we all have those friends, you know, and we have to just think about who we want to be remembered as, and do we want to be classified as that kind of friend? Like little bossy, opinionated folks. So, OMG. What was I talking about?
Creating that barrier. Like we can listen.
Protecting your energy, stay in your lane. And so with choosing your plan, with your journey, the 1, 2, 3 options, you ask your soul family. You ask the soul family, can you be my husband? Can you be my mom? Can you be my brother? You make a plan, you make soul contracts with souls. That's what this is called. A soul contract. People that need to impact your journey the most need to be blood. Okay? That's why you pick your parents. Why would I pick my mom? Well, if you're asking that way, then that means that your mom has changed you. It's just maybe not for the good. So we need to change that, right? When I get that response, I'm like, well, I'm glad you're here because we're going to talk and we're going to change the narrative because you're angry. You're upset. But what if I told you that you picked it? What if I told you that she did her role? What if I told you you needed her to do that and you asked her to do that? Because that's what you did. Now, I'm not trying to minute your emotions because I experienced it too. When you become grateful for that role in that way, you do release your anger. And you know what comes with that? Clarity. And then you find understanding. Okay, that had to happen that way for me to be this way. And oftentimes we bitch and complain because we weren't taught how to be or what to do. But I'm gonna tell you, you all experienced what not to do. You know, if you have that concern or that, you know, that thing about, I wish I was taught or I wish I knew, what if the lessons that you signed up to be taught, to learn, had everything to do with the way your mom or your dad was. And then you find a new understanding. I'm going to share something with you. You can call it whatever you